Have you ever wondered why that one person who seems so perfect, so untouchable, keeps you coming back for more, even when they barely give you the time of day? Here's something fascinating about human psychology. Our brains are wired to want what appears just out of reach, especially when it comes wrapped in an aura of perfection. This phenomenon becomes particularly powerful when dealing with avoidant personalities who seem to effortlessly use what psychologists call the halo effect to keep others perpetually chasing them. The halo effect is a cognitive bias where one positive trait creates an overall impression of goodness or perfection. When someone appears confident, mysterious, or successful in one area, our minds automatically assume they must be exceptional in every other way too. Avoidants, whether consciously or unconsciously, have mastered the art of presenting just enough of their best qualities while keeping everything else shrouded in mystery. This creates an intoxicating combination that can leave even the most rational people spinning in circles, trying to crack their code. What makes this psychological dance so compelling is how it triggers multiple cognitive biases at once. The scarcity principle kicks in when they pull away, making their attention seem more valuable. The confirmation bias has us focusing only on the moments they show interest, while dismissing all the times they leave us hanging. Meanwhile, the sunk cost fallacy keeps us invested because we've already put so much emotional energy into trying to understand them. Think about characters like Chuck Bass from Gossip Girl or Joe Goldberg from Netflix's You. These fictional personalities embody the mysterious, seemingly perfect facade that draws others in like moths to a flame. They reveal just enough depth to seem interesting while maintaining an air of unattainability that keeps people guessing. Real-life avoidance operates similarly, though thankfully with less dramatic consequences than their television counterparts. But here's what's really happening behind the scenes. This isn't necessarily a calculated manipulation. Many avoidants learned early in life that keeping people at arm's length felt safer than risking genuine vulnerability. They discovered that maintaining an air of perfection and mystery protected them from rejection while still allowing them to receive attention and admiration. The halo effect became their unconscious strategy for connection without true intimacy. Understanding how avoidants use the halo effect can be the key to breaking free from exhausting relationship patterns that leave you feeling constantly off balance. Throughout this exploration, we'll uncover the psychological mechanisms at play, examine real-world examples through compelling stories, and most importantly, provide practical strategies for recognizing when you're caught in this cycle and how to respond in healthier ways. If you want to better understand someone's attachment style, see the link in the description to one of the most popular books on attachment theory. Picture this scenario. Sarah meets someone at a coffee shop who seems like they stepped out of a movie. They're impeccably dressed, speak with quiet confidence about their successful career, and have this way of looking at her like she's the most interesting person in the room. The conversation flows effortlessly for an hour before they glance at their expensive watch and mention having to rush to an important meeting. They exchange numbers, but here's where the pattern begins. The first text comes 3 days later. Not 2, not 4, but exactly 3 days. Just long enough for Sarah to start wondering if she imagined the connection, but not so long that she's moved on completely. The message is perfectly crafted, warm enough to reignite the spark, mysterious enough to leave her wanting more. They suggest meeting for drinks at an upscale place she's never heard of, demonstrating their sophistication and social connections without seeming boastful. During their second encounter, something interesting happens. Just as Sarah starts to relax and feel like she's getting to know the real person behind the polished exterior, they become slightly distant. Not rude or cold, just enough to make her question whether she said something wrong. They excuse themselves to take a phone call that seems incredibly important, speaking in hushed tones about what sounds like a high-stakes business deal. But wait, there's more to this psychological chess game than meets the eye. When they return to the table, they're apologetic but explain that their work sometimes requires their immediate attention. They paint a picture of a life filled with important responsibilities and exciting opportunities, but always with just enough vagueness to maintain the mystique. Sarah finds herself fascinated not just by what they share, but by everything they don't reveal. This is the halo effect in full swing. Because this person appears successful, sophisticated, and in demand, Sarah's brain automatically fills in the gaps with positive assumptions. They must be incredibly intelligent to have such an important job. They must be emotionally mature to handle high-pressure situations so gracefully. They must be selective about who they spend time with, which makes their interest in her feel special and significant. The psychological trap tightens with each interaction. Sometimes they're incredibly present and engaged, sharing just enough personal information to make Sarah feel like she's seeing behind the curtain. Other times they're mysteriously busy with vague commitments that sound impressive but remain frustratingly unclear. This intermittent reinforcement creates a powerful addiction-like response in the brain. Here's where the story takes an unexpected turn that reveals the true nature of avoidant behavior. Months into this dance, Sarah discovers through a mutual friend that this seemingly perfect person has left a trail of similar relationships. Each person describes the same pattern: intense initial connection followed by hot and cold behavior, breadcrumbs of intimacy mixed with periods of distance, and an overall sense of chasing someone who always seemed just slightly out of reach. The revelation doesn't make Sarah feel less special, as logic might suggest. Instead, it intensifies her desire to be the one who finally breaks through their walls. This reaction demonstrates another cognitive bias called the gambler's fallacy, the belief that past outcomes affect future probabilities. Sarah thinks that because others fail to maintain this person's interest, her success would be even more meaningful. What Sarah doesn't realize is that this person isn't playing hard to get as a strategy to find the right partner. Their behavior stems from a deep-seated fear of genuine intimacy. The halo effect they create isn't just about attracting others. It's a protective barrier that allows them to receive attention and validation while maintaining emotional safety through distance. The story reaches its climax when Sarah finally decides to be completely honest about her feelings and desire for a real relationship. The response she receives is masterfully crafted to maintain the status quo. They express appreciation for her honesty, share just enough vulnerability to keep her hopeful, but ultimately explain why they can't commit to anything serious right now due to their complicated life circumstances. This response demonstrates the sophisticated way avoidants use the halo effect to manage relationships. They don't reject outright, which would force a clean break. Instead, they maintain their image as a good person, dealing with complex situations while keeping the door open for continued attention without increased commitment. Now that we understand how this psychological pattern operates, let's explore what you can do when you recognize these dynamics in your own relationships. The first step in breaking free from the halo effect trap is developing what psychologists call cognitive awareness. This means training yourself to notice when you're making assumptions about someone based on limited information. When you find yourself thinking someone is perfect or exceptional, pause and ask yourself what evidence actually supports these conclusions. Start by making a list of what you actually know about this person versus what you've assumed. You might be surprised to discover how much of your attraction is based on projections rather than reality. That impressive job might be real, but does it actually tell you anything about their capacity for emotional intimacy? Their sophisticated taste in restaurants might indicate disposable income, but does it reflect their ability to be vulnerable and authentic in relationships? The key here is not to become cynical or dismiss positive qualities, but rather to see people as complete human beings rather than collections of impressive traits. Real connection requires seeing both strengths and flaws, perfections and imperfections. When someone only shows you their polished surface, you're not falling for them. You're falling for an image they've carefully constructed. But here's something even more important to consider about your own patterns and what they reveal. Pay attention to your emotional responses when someone becomes less available or more mysterious. If you find yourself becoming more interested when someone pulls away, this reaction deserves examination. Healthy attraction typically involves wanting to spend more time with someone because you enjoy their company, not because you need to solve the puzzle of who they really are. This pattern often indicates something called anxious attachment, where uncertainty triggers a pursuit response. Understanding this about yourself is crucial because it means you might be unconsciously attracted to avoidant patterns that will ultimately leave you feeling unfulfilled. Practice sitting with the discomfort of not knowing everything about someone without trying to fill in the gaps with fantasy. When someone doesn't text back immediately, resist the urge to create elaborate stories about why they might be busy. When they share something vague about their past, don't assume it indicates fascinating depth and complexity. The goal isn't to become suspicious or guarded, but rather to stay grounded in present reality rather than future possibilities. Healthy relationships develop based on consistent, authentic interactions over time, not on the excitement of uncertainty and the thrill of the chase. Consider implementing what relationship experts call the consistency test. Instead of being impressed by grand gestures or perfect moments, pay attention to how someone shows up in small, everyday ways. Do their actions match their words over time? Are they available for regular, mundane conversations? Or do they only appear for exciting plans and intense discussions? Someone who truly wants to build a relationship will be present for ordinary moments, not just the highlight reel experiences. They'll share mundane details about their day, introduce you to their friends and family, and include you in their regular routine, rather than keeping you compartmentalized in a special box labeled romantic mystery. Here's another crucial strategy that can completely change how you approach these situations. Learn to recognize and resist intermittent reinforcement. This psychological principle explains why gambling can be so addictive. The unpredictable nature of rewards creates a stronger response than consistent positive feedback. Avoidants often unconsciously use this principle by providing just enough attention and affection to keep you engaged, while maintaining enough distance to avoid real commitment. When someone's availability feels like a slot machine, sometimes you hit the jackpot of their full attention, sometimes you get nothing. Step back and evaluate whether this pattern serves your emotional well-being. Healthy relationships involve reliable, consistent care and attention, not dramatic highs and lows that leave you constantly guessing where you stand. Practice what therapists call emotional regulation during the low periods. Instead of increasing your efforts to regain their attention when they pull away, use these moments to reconnect with your own life and interests. This isn't about playing games or trying to make them jealous. It's about maintaining your own emotional stability regardless of their behavior. The most powerful tool in your arsenal is learning to value your own time and emotional energy appropriately. When someone can only offer you breadcrumbs of attention and affection, asking yourself whether you would accept this level of effort from a friend can provide valuable perspective. You likely wouldn't maintain a friendship with someone who only contacted you when they needed something or disappeared for weeks without explanation. Developing strong boundaries isn't about punishing avoidant individuals or trying to change their behavior. It's about protecting your own emotional well-being and creating space for relationships that can actually meet your needs for connection and intimacy. Remember that you cannot love someone out of their avoidant patterns. No amount of patience, understanding, or devotion will force someone to become emotionally available if they're not ready or willing to do that work themselves. Your role is to decide whether you can accept the relationship as it currently exists, not as you hope it might become. Finally, cultivate relationships with people who demonstrate secure attachment patterns. Spend time with friends and family members who are consistently available, emotionally expressive, and capable of genuine intimacy. This will help recalibrate your nervous system to recognize what healthy connection actually feels like, making you less likely to be drawn to avoidant dynamics in the future. Understanding how avoidants use the halo effect isn't about demonizing people who struggle with intimacy or turning you into a cynical person who can't appreciate genuine positive qualities in others. Instead, it's about developing the psychological awareness to recognize when you're being drawn to someone based more on mystery and projection than on authentic connection and compatibility. The halo effect becomes problematic when it prevents you from seeing people clearly, both their genuine strengths and their real limitations. When someone appears perfect because they've only shown you carefully curated pieces of themselves, you're not falling in love with a person. You're falling in love with an image. Real love requires knowing someone fully, including their flaws, fears, and everyday mundane reality. Think about the most satisfying relationships in your life, whether romantic or platonic. These connections likely developed through consistent, authentic interactions where both people gradually revealed more of themselves over time. There might have been initial attraction or interest, but the relationship deepened through reliability, vulnerability, and mutual support during both good times and challenges. This is precisely what avoidant individuals struggle to provide, not because they're malicious or manipulative, but because genuine intimacy feels threatening to their emotional safety. They've learned to get their needs met through maintaining distance and control, using their positive qualities as a shield rather than a bridge to deeper connection. Your awareness of these patterns is your greatest protection and your path to healthier relationships. When you can recognize the difference between being impressed by someone's image and being genuinely compatible with their actual personality and availability, you can make choices that serve your long-term emotional well-being rather than just your immediate attraction. But here's the most important takeaway from understanding these psychological dynamics. This knowledge empowers you to break cycles that may have kept you stuck for years. You no longer have to wonder why certain relationships leave you feeling anxious and unfulfilled, or why you keep finding yourself chasing people who remain forever just out of reach. Moving forward, trust your instincts when someone's behavior doesn't match their words, when their availability feels conditional, or when you find yourself working harder to maintain the relationship than they are. These are signals that you may be dealing with avoidant patterns, regardless of how impressive or appealing the person might seem on the surface. Choose to invest your emotional energy in people who demonstrate through consistent actions that they want to build something real with you. Look for partners who are excited to share their everyday life, who introduce you to their friends and family, who are available for both celebration and support, and who show up reliably over time. Remember that you deserve relationships where your worth isn't determined by how hard you chase or how much you can tolerate uncertainty. You deserve to be chosen clearly and consistently by someone who is emotionally available and eager to build genuine intimacy with you. The halo effect will always exist as part of human psychology, but your awareness of it means you can appreciate someone's positive qualities without losing sight of the bigger picture. You can enjoy the excitement of getting to know someone new while staying grounded in reality about what they're actually offering you. Take action today by examining your current relationships through this lens. If you recognize these patterns, have compassion for yourself. These dynamics are powerful precisely because they tap into deep psychological needs and vulnerabilities. But also have enough respect for yourself to choose relationships that truly nourish and fulfill you, rather than ones that keep you perpetually hoping for more.
Thank you for watching. If you want to learn how to better understand avoidance, relationships, and psychological biases, then subscribe to our channel, because you deserve beautiful relationships.